In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to get your images ready for print. So there are lots of different printing companies out there that you can use. I'm going to show you one specific, which is Whitewall. They're very, very good, and they have a lot of tools that can help you out. So if you go to Whitewall, so it's whitewall.com, and you'll see that they have got lots and lots of different printing options up here. You can see they've also got a really good customer service which you can call, and you can also make a digital appointment where you can speak to a specialist and they will walk you through the whole process and really help you nail your final print. If you look at some of the different papers that they have, for instance, they've got the fine art print here. If you scroll down, you can see they've actually got 12 different fine art paper, and they're really, really good. So I am going to just emulate me printing on one of these. The good thing about Whitewall is that they provide you with a ICC color profile for soft proofing, and what that means is that you can actually see what your image is going to look like when it's printed on that particular paper, that whatever it is you choose. Now, before we step into this even more, I must tell you that the most important thing is that you have your screen calibrated. You need a screen calibration system. If you don't know what that is, it's just a bit of hardware and a bit of software. You plug it into your computer and it sits on your computer screen and it runs through lots of different colors from RGB, and then it calibrates your screen so you are viewing true colors. You're not working blind. Without that, then there's no point in doing any of this. So what you'll see is when you come to the specific paper that you want to use, you'll see underneath here it says download ICC color profiles for soft proof. If you click on there, you will see that these are all the different papers on the left hand side, and then all the color profiles are here. So we want to be using these within Photoshop so we can emulate what that paper is going to look like once it's been printed. So it's really easy. All you need to do is click on the profile, whatever it is that you decide to use, and it should download. So mine's just downloaded up to here. Go to your folder. Now, if you're on a Mac, then all you need to do is go to Library, Color Sync, and Profiles. And if you're on a window, just right click on the file and select Install Profile. It will tell you how to do it down here. Okay, how do I embed it into a profile? And it tells you here, look. So if you're on a Mac like me, all you need to do is select that, right click, copy, and then at the top, you can just use your magnifying tool, paste that in, open it up. There's the color profiles, and there it is. So all I would do is drag that into there, and I've already done it. You can see it here. Okay, that's all you need to do. So now we've done that, let's jump into Lightroom. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that our preferences are set up correctly for bringing this into Photoshop. So once you've done editing in Lightroom and you've done bits and bobs in Photoshop, whatever it is, save it back into Lightroom. And then we just want to come up to the top and click on Lightroom Classic and then Preferences. And within this here, we've got the Photoshop version. So if you're like me and you've got the beta version, just make sure you're selecting the Photoshop that you are currently using. We want a file format to be a TIFF. Color space, we want to be this one here, ProPhoto RGB, and then the bit depth at 16 bits, and a resolution. So that doesn't really matter at this stage because we can change this after, but 300 is good. So then click on the little red button there just to close that down. So everything is now set up for us. So what we want to do is open this into Photoshop. So we can do this multiple ways. So I'm just going to press Control or Command E and then edit a copy with the Lightroom adjustments. Say yes to that. So the first thing we want to do is we want to change our image size. So whatever it is we're going to be printing, so go to image size, and you can then just type in the size that you want there, whatever it is you want to do. So for instance, I can make this a 24 by 15. Make sure the resolution is at 300. So when we do this, if you look, the image size is 186.6 meg and it was 224. So what that means is that we are working within our original file size. Okay, we're not expanding beyond that. We're not enlarging this to the point where we're going beyond the original size. And when it comes to the 300 pixels per inch, so dots per inch, so you only have a certain amount of dots to work with, which are basically dictated by your file size. So if you're making a very large print, so for instance, if we were going to make this a lot bigger, if we were going to make this 100, for instance, then we would probably need to drop our dots per inch. Okay, so what we would be doing is taking into account the viewing size of the image. So even though, for instance, let's drop this to say 240 pixels per inch, we're going to lose a little bit of image quality, but it's taken into account that you would be standing much further away to view the image. So you're going to have a little bit of less quality because you're going to go bigger. Okay, so let's just put this back to 300 and just say okay to that. One of the tricks that you can use within Photoshop is, and Lightroom, is the enhance. So you may have seen that before. If I just jump back over into Lightroom, sometimes you can use this, a lot of people do, and then they do it just to enhance their image. But if you right click and then select enhance, you'll see there that this will then come up and it will give you the option to use super resolution. So if you look at the little eye here, this will tell you what it does. And this doubles the image resolution, ideal for large displays and prints. So we can use that feature to help us have a much larger file. So when we are printing bigger like we are now, we can still keep 300 dpi. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. One of the things you can do as well, if we just come back into image size, is there's a section here. I just want to show you this because a lot of people don't know this exists and they just miss it, where it says resample. The minute we've got automatic. So what you can do is select preserve details 2.0. That is something that I use every now and then, and this helps if you've got an image and you want to get rid of some noise, so you can increase that and it will just help push it along. Most of the time people leave it on automatic and that's absolutely fine. I do most of the time, but if you find you've got quite a noisy image, then you can reduce the noise a little bit by just moving this sample here. So that can help as well. So we want to kind of get this ready for print. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to right click, and what will come up is a option here to change the background. So I'm going to select custom, and if you go to select custom color, you can have it whatever you want. So if you want to view it on pink, you can. I've just set it up so it goes to white, so I know what it's going to look like when it's printed. That can help a lot. So we want to then sharpen this ready for printing, because we're going from viewing this on a screen to a print, so it's going to need to be sharpened. So the first thing we want to do is press Control Command J, and we're going to duplicate the background layer there, and then we want to come up to filter, come to other, and then go to high pass. What we want to do here is basically sharpen just the edges, okay, and we want to focus on the contrast in the detail. So it's a very small amount, and we don't want to over sharpen this whatsoever. It's just a little sharpen. So I'm actually going to select 0.1, and if you view, you can see just around the edges. In fact, I'd probably push this up a little bit bigger because I have made this quite large. So I'm going to go to actually to 1 pixel radius. You can see here now, if we zoom in, I can just see the detail around here. So where the birds are, where the skin is, and the texture. So that's going to be enough just to pull it out a little bit. So let's say okay to that. And now what we want to do is come up to the blend mode, and we want to select overlay. So that will then just bring everything back. So if we look at this and zoom in, and we want to be zooming in at 100% is the maximum we want to go to, because that's going to be where we'll be viewing from. I'm going to come in at 50% or even 33% would be enough. So we can look at the before and after. There's the before, there's the after. So it's very subtle. This is, remember, for print. So it's going to be a lot sharper when we print it. So once we've done that, we can come up to layer and then just flatten image. So let's flatten that. So we've just done a global sharpen just to bring up all the detail. The other thing that we can do is come back into filter and then go to sharpen and then unsharp mask. And again, what we can do with this is just make a small amount of sharpening. So the radius, I would keep this usually around 0.2 to 0.5, around that mark. The amount, you can push this up to around 120. It really depends on your image, and leave the threshold anywhere between 1 and 4. And again, this can give us a bit of a global adjustment, and it's quite nice, and it's just getting everything ready for print. So you can move these sliders around and just get an idea of what it's going to do with the preview. So it really comes down to each image. But I would say with this one, I would actually probably bring this down a little bit to about 80. So let's just say okay to that. And that has now given us a little bit more of a sharper picture, and I can see the difference in there. So if we come up to here, you can see there's the before, there's the after. Let's do this at 50%. Yeah, just the edges, so that's good. Okay, so the next thing we want to do now is we want to use this color profile. So to do that, come up to view, and then we want to go to proof setup and then click on custom. Now what we want to do is click on the device to simulate, and now we want to find that color profile that we installed earlier. So let's find that, and it's here. This is the whitewall inkjet fine art pearl paper. So I'm going to click that. Now by default yours will look like this. I always click simulate paper color because that is going to show me what the color of the paper is going to look like once it's printed, and this is where you can make some big changes, and you can see that actually it does have a big impact. So that particular paper will print with a little less yellow in it. You can see what that's doing there. So let's just select OK, and what we would want to do now is just make some adjustments, because what we're going to be doing is making adjustments. This is exactly what it's going to look like when we print it. So let's come to our layers panel, come down to the bottom, and let's just bring up a levels adjustment. And for here we might want to start pumping some of that white back in because it's kind of matted it off a little bit. So let's just bring it up to about there, maybe push some of this black in and just pull that mid-tones in a little bit. There we go. So the other thing that you can do as well is if we come up to view and then select gamma warning, and then if we come down to the bottom and make a hue and saturation adjustment, you'll see that this is just on the master. So if I push this up, you'll start to see these gray areas that are appearing. So what that is doing is showing you colors falling out of the range that this particular paper can reproduce. So it will basically shift it back down to where it think it should be, and that can sometimes give you a false color. So if that happens, then what you can do is come up to where it says master, and you've got these colors here. So for instance, the yellows here, if I wanted to add them yellows back in that this paper has taken out in this simulation, then I can push that, but I can push it to the point where I know that, okay, that's the limitation of what that paper can handle. So I would bring this down to about 11, somewhere like that. And I know then I'm not clipping the colors and they're going to be a little bit more true. So once we've done that, we can then just come up to layer and then flatten image just to get rid of all of the adjustments that we just made. The next thing we can do then is we can add a little border around this. So let's come up to image, and let's go to canvas size. You can do this multiple ways. You can go into inches, or you can just do it from percentages, whatever you want to do. So let's do 110 by 110, depending on what you want. And then down here, you can select a color for your border. So let's just say okay to that. That will then add a border around for us. I can right click and just go back to default, and that's going to give me then a view of what this print will look like. And I can zoom in 100% and just double check everything, make sure we are happy. So if you wanted to do any more treatment, things like that, you would have done this all before you come to this stage for printing. Now what is really, really important is that you then save this. So go to File and then Save as a copy, and you want to be saving this as a TIFF. And what's really important is that you select this. You need to embed the color profile, okay, because that's what we've just been using, and then save it to wherever it is you're going to be saving to then send off for print. So just click Save, and there you go. One final thing is that you must come back up and go to your custom, so View, Page Setup, Custom, okay, and don't forget to change this back to working CMYK. Otherwise, you'll be looking at that particular paper style in the future, and you don't want that. And you can see the difference of what that is going to give you. So that's corrected, so that's what we're going to get. And before was this here. So if I wanted to emulate this more, I could simply come back into here and then make adjustments. And if I click this simulate paper color, you can see that does make a big difference to the actual overall finish. So I hope that's helped. I hope that's given you some ideas there of what to do. You can then send your images to these guys and they will print, and you will not be disappointed because your colors will look exactly how you see them on the screen. So I hope you enjoyed that. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.